say love not the world, know the things in it. But everybody love everything in it, right? But listen, here's what they want to do, right? They want to separate this they can love the most, right? Listen, I'm going to love this because it's good for me, but I'm going to disregard it when it's bad. But listen, everything that's good is also bad. Let me tell you this. You love your mama, right? But the same person you love also brought you bad, right? You love your kids. The same person you love also brought you pain, right? See, it's all come together. See, this is what people fuck up at, right? They live life through duality. They want to match love with love. You can't match love with love. You can't match hate with hate. You can't match peace with peace. You got to match everything with awareness. So the true and the only addiction of the world is the emotions, man.
Black Power, that part, y'all. What's up? Yeah, man, we'll have a 607 Unk coming back on in a couple of weeks. Maybe next week. You never know. We like to surprise you. So make sure that you subscribe and follow. And for right now, I'm running a special for all of my subscribers. Y'all get a lot of freebies, backstage passes, so to speak. So tonight, we're talking about, ancient Mesopotamia. Go all the way back to the first man. Well, some say the first man. So we'll get back to the news later because there's a lot going on. Anyway, in Apapa, an important figure in Mesopotamian religion, his name would be used to invoke power and exorcism rituals. He also became the archetype for the wise ruler. In the context, his name would be invoked to invoke favorable comparisons. Some scholars conflate Adapa as Adakula, known as Una. There is some evidence for that connection, but the name Adapa may also be used as an epitaph meaning wise. And I'm going to play a little bit of this clip right here. And we're going to get right back into
Enki is the god of secrets. The one who would know and use his advice must be prepared to listen carefully when the cunning god speaks. In particular, Enki knows the way in and out of the world below, the world of the dead, which to the Mesopotamian mind was a place of almost unrelieved terror. Yet there were times when humans and gods needed to make the terrible journey, and Enki knew the way. Though it is well to consider the story of Apapa, the man who was offered the life of the gods, but lost his chance. This is Ea's plan for Apapa. In the beginning of the story, Apapa had committed a major fault. He had broken the wing of the south wind while Apapa had been fishing. It is to make good for his offense to Anu that Ea appears to be offering advice to Apapa. Apapa should make the difficult journey to heaven and mollify Anu. Here, Ea, who knows of things above, touched him. Apapa had him wear his hair unkempt, a dirty garment he made him put on, and gave him this plan. So Apapa, you are going before Anu, the king. Take the road to heaven. When to heaven you have ascended, at the gate of Anu on your approach, at the gate of Anu, the gods Dumuzi and Gishzida will be standing. Seeing you, they will ask you, man, for whom are you changed in this way? Adapa, for whom are you clothed in a dirty garment? From our land 2 gods have vanished. So I did this. Who are the 2 gods who from the land have vanished, the gods Dumuzi and Gishzida? They will glance at each other and laugh. A good word they will speak to Anu, and the benignant face of Anu they will let you see. As you stand before Anu, when the bread of death they offer you, you shall not eat it. When the water of death they offer you, you shall not drink it. When they offer you a garment, put it on. When they offer you oil, anoint yourself. The plan I am giving you do not neglect. The words I have spoken to you, hold them tight. Ea gives his instructions or plan. The advice is twofold. First, Ea tells Apapa to put on the garb of mourning, a ragged or dirty piece of clothing, and to wear his hair unkempt. Apapa is to take the road to heaven. The guards at the gate are 2 gods usually associated with the netherworld. The first, Dumuzi, or Tammuz, is the better known in literature because of his often stormy love affair with the goddess Inanna, Ishtar. The second is a chthonic figure,
Like
Ishzida.
Easter.
The guardian gods
It's
will call
the
attention to
Ishtar.
Adapa's human state, for it is odd that a human would approach the dwelling of the gods. Ea's advice is a bit of psychological trickery to win them over. He has changed himself over, he is to say, because the two gods have disappeared from the earth. With the good word of the guardian gods, Adapa will be ushered into the presence of Anu himself. Ea's second bit of advice is how to act when Anu offers Adapa hospitality. When he is offered bread and water, he is not to eat or drink. He is, however, to take the garment offered him and the oil for anointing his body. Only the context will show how tricky the second part of Ea's plan really is. Ea emphasizes that Adapa sees the words he has spoken. When the plan is actually put into effect, though, Adapa misses his chance at immortality. Where Ea had warned Adapa against eating the bread of death, Akala Samuti, and drinking the water of death, Memuti, what Anu offers Adapa instead is the bread of life and the water of life. Otherwise, the advice on the oil and the garment is followed in the proper way. No sooner does Adapa make his mistake, when Anu laughs at him. If the Middle Babylonian version of Adapa, from which Ea's speech here is taken, is the same in its ending as the Neo-Assyrian version that has also survived, Ea's cryptic advice has a variety of consequences, good and
Black
bad.
Ophenum Lion
Anu laughs and
TV.
sends Adapa back to Earth. It is
Going
possible
over
that
the
Anu is trying to trick
story of
Adapa. Had he drunk of
Adapa,
the water of life
first
and eaten the
man,
food of life,
and
Adapa
live.
would have gained immortality for
Yeah,
himself and for humankind generally.
black on
As
it.
it is, Adapa's mistake has lost the chance for immortality. But the human has seen the benignant face of Anu, and the Neo-Assyrian text points to the awful gift Adapa has been granted. As Adapa from the horizon of heaven to the zenith of heaven cast
Make
a
sure y'all
glance,
hit
he
the
saw its
cash app.
awesomeness. In that vision
Dollar
given to
sign
Adapa
Black
is
Ophenum.
revealed the gulf that
Number
separates the
one.
human and the divine. Adapa's failure to see through Ea's cunning words had already marked that very difference. Besides the vision of heaven that is opened up to Adapa, there are other consequences, according to the Neo-Assyrian version. Anu imposed something on Adapa, but Ea's city of Eridu, where Adapa had served him, is given a special status, and its priesthood is given an exalted destiny. The last lines of the story return to the beginning. In the beginning of the work, Adapa had offended Anu, and it was to become right with Anu that Ea had, it seemed, given advice that would make Adapa immortal. At the end, the consequences of Adapa's crime are noted in the two he brought to humankind, and the disease that he brought to the bodies of human beings. The text turns at last to implore the goddess of healing to turn the disease aside.
And check it out. You know, this go all the way back to ancient Mesopotamian. Well, I'm gonna get tongue tied on that one. Ancient Mesopotamian. They want to say myth, but that's not what they were calling it. They were calling it their scriptures. You know what I mean? And it's all like a pseudepigrapha, which is like time repeating itself. You know what I mean? So all the pseudepigrapha things that have happened and things is gonna happen. You know, like sounds to me like Noah and the flood, maybe under different name. You know what I'm saying? So let's get black on it. Check out this. We're going to check out the tablets. Well, as a matter of fact, before I do that, let's do this. We got to do this. Yeah. Check out, like I say, check out the tablets, you know? Go all the way back. Yeah, that's a dapper breaking the wing of the south wind. And there it is right there, all up in your face. It's like way before the Bible was written. You know what I mean? Indeed. We're going to get back to that too. Yep. But tonight, definitely covering Adapa, because Adapa was Mesopotamian, Mesopotamia mythical figure. I don't like saying that. Who knowingly refused the gift of immortality. The story, commonly known as Adapa and the South Wind, is known in fragmentary tablets. And that's one of them, right? Well, let's go back to the tablets. Yeah. In fragments of tablets. Um, Around the 14th century BC, that's before Christ, and from finds from the library of Ashurbanipal, Assyria, around 7th century BC. The oldest tradition about him is Mitaran Tel Hadan tablets around 19th and 16th century BC, which is also written in Sumerian. So Adapa, that's the Mesopotamian myth figure who he refused, the food and everything because they knew they were trying to poison him, which is stuff we need to think about these days. You know what I mean? It was leading to the rise of Adapa, the first of 7 sages, a priestly service, meaning God of wisdom, created him to serve the temple at Eridu, bake bread and make offerings to the gods. Bridge and see how they had, more than one, because they was basically, under the one, like they kids, like the family, you know what I mean? That's why it referred to Christ as the Son of Man, but it's all repeated. So let's just get into it. Here.
He possessed intelligence. His command, like the command of Anu. Ea granted him a wide ear to reveal the destiny of the land. He granted him wisdom, but he did not grant him eternal life. In those days, in those years, the wise man of Eridu, Ea had created him as chief among men, a wise man whose command none should oppose. The prudent, the most wise among the Anunnaki was he. Blameless,
Anunnaki,
of clean
y'all.
hands, anointed,
Coming
observer
back.
of the divine statutes. With the bakers he made
So
bread.
they say. We'll
With
see.
the bakers of Eridu,
If it ain't a three-headed alien that's
food
ready to
and
eat
water
you
for
all, I
Eridu
have
he made
no
daily.
idea. We'll find out
With his
together.
clean hands he prepared the table, and without him the table was not cleared. The ship he steered, fishing and hunting for Eridu he did. Then Adapa of Eridu, while Ea, in the chamber upon the bed, daily the closing of Eridu he attended to. Upon the pure dam, the new moon dam, he embarked upon the ship. The wind blew and his ship departed. With the oar, he steered his ship upon the broad sea. Tablet number 2.
Copyright
wind.
disclaimer is at the bottom of the
When
screen.
he had driven me to the house of my lord, I said, O south wind, on the way I shall to thee. Everything that thy wing I will break. As he spake with his mouth, the wing of the south wind was broken. 7 days the south wind blew not upon the land. Anu called to his messenger Ilabrat. Why has the south wind not blown upon the land for 7 days? His messenger Ilabrat answered him, My lord, Adapa, the son of Ea, the wing of the south wind has broken. When Anu heard these words, he cried, Help! He ascended his throne. Let someone bring him. Likewise Ea, who knows the heaven, he roused him, he caused him to wear with a mourning garment. He garbed him and gave him counsel, saying, Adapa, before the face of Anu the king, thou art to go to heaven. When thou comest up, and when thou approachest the door of Anu, and at the door of Anu, Tammuz and Gishzida are standing, they will see thee, they will ask thee, Sir, for whose sake dost thou so appear dapper? For whom art thou clad in a mourning garment? In our country, 2 gods have vanished, therefore am I so. Who are the 2 gods? Who in the land have vanished? Tammuz and Gishzida. They will look at one another and be astonished. Good words they will speak to Anu. A good countenance of Anu they will show thee.
We're using this for
When thou
educational
standest before
and
Anu, food of
entertainment
death they will
purposes.
set before thee. Eat not. Water of death they will set before thee. Drink not. Garments they will set before
A
thee.
reaction
Put them
video.
on. Oil they will set before thee.
If we
Anoint
must.
thyself. The counsel that I have given thee forget not. The words which I have spoken hold fast. The messenger of Anu came. Adapa has broken the wing of the south wind. Bring him before me. The road to heaven he made him take, and to heaven he ascended. When he came to heaven, he approached the door of Anu. At the door of Anu, Tammuz and Gishzida are standing. When they saw him, Adapa, they cried, Help, sir, for whom dost thou so appear? Adapa, for whom art thou clad in a mourning garment? In the country 2 gods have vanished, therefore I am clad in mourning garments. Who are the 2 gods who have vanished from the land? Tammuz and Gishzida. They looked at one another and were astonished. When Adapa before Anu the king drew near, and Anu saw him, he cried, Come hither, Adapa. Why hast thou broken the wings of the south wind? Adapa answered Anu, My lord, for the house of my lord, in the midst of the sea, I was catching fish. The sea was like a mirror. The south wind blew and capsized me. To the
Check
house of my
that,
lord I was
y'all.
driven. In the anger of my heart I took heed. Tammuz and Gishzida answered, Art thou? To Anu they speak. He calmed himself. His heart was, Why has ear revealed to impure mankind the heart of heaven and earth? A heart was created within him, has made him a name. What can we do with him? Food of life bring him.
Food
Let
of
the
life.
man
Hear
eat.
that?
Food
Which
of
was
life
gonna
they brought
kill
him,
him.
but he ate not.
Hell no.
Water of
Ain't
life they
happening.
brought him, but he drank not.
I don't be going to feast
Garments they brought him,
Except for
he
maybe
clothed
speak.
himself.
and not
Oil
too
they
close to
brought
the
him,
mic.
he anointed himself.
I said, I got
Anu
my own
looked at
mic.
him, and he wondered at him. Come, Adapa, why hast thou not eaten, not drunken? Now thou shalt not live.
Hmm.
Ea, my lord, said, Eat not, drink not.
Man,
Take him and
pause
bring him
that
back to his
joint.
earth.
Y'all remember, like
Tablet number
Adam
3.
in the garden, it took
When heard that,
the fruit
in the
of life
anger of his heart,
and death
his messenger he sent,
and
he
ate
who knows the
and
heart of
still
the great
died.
gods. To
He
King
was
Ea
smart
to
enough not
come.
to eat it.
To him he caused words
He
to be
died on
brought.
the
To
spot.
him, King Ea. He sent a messenger with a
Poison.
wide ear, knowing the heart of the great gods, of the heavens be fixed. A soiled garment he made
If
him
you
wear.
want to be a
With a
god,
mourning garment
you want
he
to be
clad
like
him.
us,
A
he's
word
like,
he
no,
spoke
thank
to him.
you. I don't want the
Adapa,
pressure.
before the king Anu thou shalt go. Fail not the order, keep my word. When thou hast come up to heaven and approachest the door of Anu, Tammuz and Gishzida at the door of Anu are standing.
So y'all gonna have to help me with these reaction videos.
This production is brought to you by the
Uh-oh.
World History Encyclopedia
They brought
and the
to you
study
by
of
Black
antiquity
Lightning.
and the Middle Ages.
What happened? How'd I get off the screen? Oh,
Eridu
okay.
Genesis,
I'm on the screen, but I'm off the screen. Here we go.
written by Joshua J. Mark.
Hear what he said? Eridu Genesis. You all know what Genesis is, right? The beginning, all the way to the end. You know, it's like reading a good book. You got to read it all the way to the end. Or do like me, I just skip to the end. That's how I used to pass all my tests in school. He'd be like, ain't you read that book? Man, I ain't read that book. We've been partying all weekend. You know what I'm saying? And say, well, damn, you gonna fail the test? No, I ain't, because I'm gonna sit in the hallway and read the end. But I'm just kidding. Y'all gotta read it from the beginning. That's Genesis.
Narrated by D.W. Draffin.
I should be narrating
The
this
Sumerian
myself,
flood story,
but I don't want to go.
also
through it
known
right
as
now.
the Eridu Genesis,
Wear me out.
Sumerian creation myth, Sumerian deluge myth,
The deluge
is the oldest
That's
Mesopotamian
the flood,
text
y'all.
relating the tale of the Great Flood,
Yeah.
which would appear in later works such as the Atrahasis, 17th century BCE,
the Bible.
the Epic of Gilgamesh, circa 2150 to
Ooh,
1400
all in there.
BCE, and most famously, the story of Noah and his ark from the
Yep.
biblical book of Genesis,
Go.
circa 1450 BCE. The story is dated to circa 2300 BCE in its written form, but is thought to be much older, preserved by oral tradition until committed to writing. The extant work is badly damaged, with a number of significant lines missing, but can still be read and easily understood as an early Great Flood story. Scholars who have studied the text generally rely on the later Akkadian Babylonian Atrahasis, which tells the same tale, to fill in the blanks of
That's why a
missing
lot of people
text
think they coming
from
back when
the
they
broken
spaceship,
tablet.
y'all.
The story most likely
I am
influenced
black.
the Egyptian flood story known as the Book of the Heavenly Cow,
6'5".
dated in part to the first intermediate period of Egypt, 2181 to 2040 BCE,
Be one of the shorter ones.
but certainly was the inspiration for the later Mesopotamian works
I
as
got a
well
brother,
as the
he
biblical
was a
narrative
short one.
of Noah.
Shoot, we got
The story was first discovered in 1893 CE during the period of
over
widespread
7 feet
expeditions
tall.
and
Gotta be
excavations throughout Mesopotamia, funded by Western institutions. The good man, in this version of the tale, chosen to survive the flood and preserve life on earth, is the priest king Ziudsura of the city of Surapak, whose name means life of long days. This same figure appears as Atrahasis, exceedingly wise, in the later work that bears his name, as Utnapishtim, he found life, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, and as Noah, rest or peace, in the book of Genesis. Expeditions and discovery. In the 19th century CE, Western institutions, including museums and universities, funded expeditions to Mesopotamia in hopes of finding physical evidence which would corroborate the historicity of biblical narratives.
I wouldn't want to say that word.
The 19th century CE saw the unprecedented practice of increasingly critical readings of the Bible, which questioned long-held beliefs regarding its divine origin and supposed infallibility. This age of skepticism would see the publication of Darwin's Origin of Species in 1859 CE, suggesting that human
big-ass
beings...
words. Hold on. Infallibility, meaning that it's been proven to be true, even though these people calling it a myth. But they just said infallibility. Come on now, get with the big words. I hear through all this stuff, and they ain't even used big words in ancient Mesopotamia, no way.
Rather than being created by God as a little lower than the angels, Psalm 8:5,
No, we're above that.
evolved from primates. In 1882 CE, the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche published his work, The Gay Science, containing the famous line, "God is dead, and we have killed him," alluding to the seeming triumph of technology and secularism over traditional religious belief. Prior to the rise of secular skepticism, and even during the period when Darwin and Nietzsche were writing, the Bible was considered the oldest book in the world, completely original and of
I
divine
have to read
origin.
this myself in hood
This
vernacular.
view was encouraged.
Hold on. Let me come right back to him. As a matter of what I'm really gonna do is get up off of him. He's speaking the King English a little bit too much for me. You know what I mean? Maybe that's in honor of what's his name, King Charles. He come over here. And he not well, he did kind of bust him out in that speech, but it was so articulate you couldn't even know he bust him out. You know, he bust him out in that British way. He's like, I'm about to bust you out, my dear friend, but you would never know it. I mean, you would know it, and maybe some of the higher thinkers in the press would know, and maybe Black Lightning can figure it out, but the rest of these numbskulls would never know. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's get to this here because he was getting me with them big 10-letter words.
At the heart of the mystical Mesopotamian mythology, we find the powerful figures of Enlil and Enki. These two gods, who are both siblings and competitors, are fundamental figures in the Sumerian religion, and they've had a lasting impact on human history. Enlil, the god of air and storms, and Enki, the lord of water and wisdom, represent a dynamic interplay of power, wisdom, rivalry, and sometimes cooperation that define the ethos of an entire civilization and even humanity as a whole. But let's pause for a moment and ask the question, do we really know who the real Enlil and Enki are? Could these legendary brothers be more?
Y'all hear that? Legendary brother.
At the heart of the mystical Mesopotamian mythology, we find the powerful figures of Enlil and Enki. These two gods, who are both siblings and competitors, are fundamental figures in the Sumerian religion, and they've had a lasting impact on human history. Enlil, the god of air and storms, and Enki, the lord of water and wisdom, represent a dynamic interplay of power, wisdom, rivalry, and sometimes cooperation that define the ethos of an entire civilization and even humanity as a whole. But let's pause for a moment and ask the question, do we really know who the real Enlil and Enki are? Could these legendary brothers be more than a myth? Might they have been not just deities of Sumerian worship, but visitors from the stars? Could the Sumerians have been writing about meetings with highly advanced beings from other planets? We'll find out in the new episode of Secret Origins. Welcome. What if the secrets of the universe aren't found in our advanced telescopes or under our powerful microscopes, but rather in old stories and legends from ancient times? What if the tales about gods which have been forgotten over time hint at hidden truths about our lives, our minds, and our deep connection to the universe? And what if the blueprint of humanity was not crafted by chance mutations and blind evolutionary processes, but instead was the intentional masterpiece of divine architects?
I was getting ready to tell y'all freestyle.
The narrative of Enlil, the Lord Wind, and Enki, the Lord Earth, is not a mere tale of divine personas from a civilization that has long succumbed to the ravages of time. This is a deep connection between two fundamental forces that shape our lives. Enlil, the breath of the sky and power of the storm, radiates power and order, symbolizing the higher realms of existence, the heavens above us. On the other hand, Enki, the deity of water and knowledge, the clever schemer, symbolizes the deep secrets of the earth below us, the hidden wonders of existence.
You know, they say they got the
Enki,
aliens
the
under
lord
the
of
water.
the earth and waters, is a figure of immense power and intellect in the Sumerian pantheon. His name, comprised of the Sumerian words for Lord, En, and Earth, Ki, denotes his domain over the earthly elements, yet it's his association with water, both the life-giving and the chaotic, that captures his essence most vividly. Consider this, the Sumerians believed that fresh water existed in the depths of the earth, and it was Enki who supplied this life-giving resource to the land, nourishing it and making it fertile. This points to Enki's role as a god of agriculture and abundance, a benefactor of civilization. Yet, the god of wisdom was not just an embodiment of generosity and prosperity. He was also the trickster of the pantheon, known for his clever schemes and sharp wit that allowed him to bend rules without actually breaking them. When the gods decided to unleash a devastating flood to wipe out humanity, Enki was driven by compassion and cunning, went against the divine plan. He warned the human king Utnapishtim to build a boat and save humanity from extinction. This rebellious streak is a defining aspect of Enki's character, marking him as a deity who would even defy his own kind for the welfare of humanity. It was said that he sent from Dilmum, a paradisiacal land of Sumerian myth, the 7 wise men or Abgal to enlighten humankind. Each of these Abgal was associated with a specific art or craft, further emphasizing Enki's role in encouraging creativity and wisdom. However, one of the most captivating tales associated with Enki involves his intense rivalry with his brother Enlil. This legendary conflict represents not just a divine power struggle, but also a division of beliefs and areas of influence. But does this rivalry hint at something deeper? Some believe it might symbolize the age-old human struggle between nature and civilization, survival and progress. Throughout history, they have been interpreted as gods, angels, and now in the modern era as extraterrestrial visitors who brought great wisdom to Earth. In essence, the Anunnaki are a group of ancient Mesopotamian deities worshipped by the Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian, and Assyrian cultures. Their numbers, descriptions, and roles differ across various sources, leading to contradictions. According to the earliest Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki were the most powerful gods in a diverse pantheon and were said to be descendants of An, the supreme deity. In later accounts, they took the role of 7 judges, presiding over the underworld as depicted in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The earliest mention of the Anunnaki can be traced back to the Re of Gudir of the 3rd dynasty of Ur, where they are referenced as the most significant deities in the Sumerian pantheon descended from An. Unfortunately, no complete surviving list of Anunnaki deities exists. But why did the Anunnaki come to Earth? What were they looking for? According to Zacharias Sitchin, the Anunnaki lived on a planet called Nibiru. However, there were problems in Nibiru's atmosphere, and after a period of study, the Anunnaki conclude that in order to repair their atmosphere, they must enrich it with gold. They studied all the planets in our solar system and found that the planet with the largest amount of gold deposits was Earth, so a plan was made whereby a detachment of the Anunnaki would travel to Earth and extract the necessary gold from the seawater. The individual in charge of the whole operation is Enlil, and he travels with his brother Enki in the role of chief engineer. Both travel to Earth along with an Anunnaki ship that was to carry the gold mined from the sea, specifically Red Sea and the coast of North Africa. Everything goes well at first, but they can't extract enough gold from the sea, and from their center, they switch operations to Africa, where they dig gold mines. Although they began mining gold in Africa, their main center of action remained in Eden in Sumeria. Eventually, Enlil leaves the planet Earth, leaving Enki in complete control. Soon, some of the Anunnaki doing the mining began to complain that it was much more difficult work than they had agreed to do, putting the entire operation at risk. Enki comes up with an idea, and that is to genetically modify the proto-humans that are on the planet to make them more intelligent and able to do the hard work of mining. The Anunnaki have technology that uses genetic engineering that they've developed a long time ago. After much trial and error, Enki succeeded in producing an Anunnaki Homo erectus hybrid. In other words, the genetic structure of the Anunnaki was mixed with the genetic structure of Homo erectus to create a new type of human being.
Mhm.
The new
The one with
hybrid
the brain.
Enki calls Adamo. So Enki then went to work again, making his Adamo capable of sexual reproduction. In other words, Enki created Adamo in Eden, but then further created a
Garden of
female,
Eden.
Eve probably, to
Eve.
allow Adamo to reproduce itself. This now works extremely well. Adamos are reasonably intelligent and work hard. They also begin to replicate in large numbers, and the Anunnaki train them to grow crops. At this point, a problem begins to arise. The Anunnaki find female Adamo very attractive and begin mating with them. This produced another hybrid form. Some of the new hybrids were accepted
Nephilim,
while
the
others
giant.
were not, but the end result was that Enlil ordered the Adamo to be left to die. It was then observed that Nibiru's next orbit would bring it closer to the South Pole, which would cause a melting effect of all the ice, causing flooding of most of Earth's surface along with major earthquakes and volcanoes. Enki is very fond of his creations and secretly helps an Adamo called Utnapishtim to build an ark to save as many Adamos as possible, as well as all kinds of animals and plants. The ark might actually be a submarine instead of the animals going 2 by 2. They contain the genetic records of a lifetime. With Nibiru's next orbit, the expected catastrophe begins and massive flood occurs, thus ending the last ice age. Then, all that occurred about 13,000 years ago. All of it was destroyed. Anyway, the floods finally recede and Enlil, Enki, and the rest of the Anunnaki return to Earth. The Anunnaki began to repair their infrastructure in Sumer or Eden and decided to increase their gold mining operation as well as establish a way station on Mars. The Sumerians of Sumer, who emerged as the earliest known civilization around the 5th millennium BC, played a pivotal role. Originally a non-Semitic culture, the Sumerians thrived as a nation by 3000 BC due to their advanced irrigation techniques, leading to the development of influential city-states like Ur, Uruk, Eridu, Lagash, and Kish.
Iraq.
Credited with inventing cuneiform writing, the Sumerians were ahead of their time and possessed extensive knowledge in music, poetry, art, mathematics, astronomy, and science. According to Sumerian creation myths, the Anunnaki, or the great sons of Anu, played a foundational role in their culture. These beings were known as the Shining Ones. Early accounts of the Shining Ones can be found in 4 principal sources: a Sumerian tablet from the Library of Nakol, where they're named the Anunnaki, the Book of Enoch, referring to them as angels, watchers, or Nephilim, the Book of Jubilees, and the biblical Book of Genesis, where they're called Elohim. In Genesis, the phrase Elohim is used indicating the Shining Ones. El signifies brightness and shining, and this Semitic word appears in various ancient languages. Additionally, Elohim, being plural, should be read as the Shining Ones. In the Old Testament, Elohim is frequently used to refer to God and other deities, acknowledging the existence of other gods during that period. Replacing Lord with the Shining Ones while reading the Bible reveals remarkable difference, providing a truer understanding of the original text. The biblical God is the light, giving birth to the divine spark of Christ. Thus, a more accurate interpretation emerges, highlighting the association of God with illumination, fire, the sun, light, and the enlightened beings emanating from that brilliance, the source of intelligence itself. Anu or An, the chief sky and sun god, signifies shining. Therefore, the Anunnaki translates to sons of the Shining One or sons of light. In Ireland, Aine denotes shining, possibly connecting to the Tuatha Dé Danann, known as the Shining Ones of Ireland, as well as the serpent cult that Saint Patrick eradicated from the Emerald Isle. Furthermore, there exists an intriguing semi-nomadic bear worship tribe in Japan called the Ainu. The Ainu, characterized by Caucasian features, round heads, fair skin, wavy hair, and gray or blue eyes, have reportedly inhabited various Japanese islands like Okinawa,